Hello, everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Daily, presented to you by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight, coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, 2,454 miles from Little Caesars Arena, and just as many miles from the Red Wings' most recent victory, which hasn't been for a while. It's been a 4-game losing streak for the Wings, including the shootout loss to the Boston Bruins over the weekend. So the Red Wings have out of a possible 8 points, they've only gotten one over their last 4 games. Now, since the last time we had our program, the Red Wings played 2 games. One was at home early afternoon Friday, Black Friday, against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they lost 6-3. Now, going on to that game, the Red Wings were 0 for 1 on the penalty kill. So the Lightning obviously got their one of their goals on via the power play, and the Red Wings were 0 for 1 on their power play, so they weren't really even getting that many opportunities. Only getting one power play in 60 minutes is not a good sign. It shows a really tight-knit playing style with the Lightning, and that's going to show with the way they've been since starting so horribly. So it's been a reversal of fortunes in the Atlantic Division between the Red Wings and the Lightning. The first time the two met, the Wings won 2-1 in overtime, and obviously that was at Little Caesars Arena as well. So, what a difference a few weeks makes when you turn your team around and you start to get a little more confidence in your goaltender and Vasilevsky. So, Red Wings weren't so lucky as they were the first time around, losing 6-3. Now, they went on the road and took on Boston. Now, the Bruins game was a little bit more of a positive note for the Red Wings, especially as they're about to embark on once they play the Bruins again on Tuesday at Little Caesars Arena, then they're going to go on their 6-game road trip. So a few notes to take away from Saturday's shootout loss is the fact that the Red Wings came back to tie the game twice, to actually force overtime and end up losing the shootout. Now, this was Talbot's first loss in the shootout of 3 tries. It was his first time actually giving up a goal in a shootout this season. He was 7 for 7 against the Kings and the Sharks, and the first shot he faced in the shootout, gave it up. Didn't even have a chance to face a third shot because the Red Wings were 0 for 3 in the top half of the inning. So a couple of notes to take away from that game. Even though the Red Wings did come away with the point, they were 0 for 5 in the power play. Now, you're 0 for 5 on a power play and you end up with a shootout loss. You're thinking at some point or another throughout that game, you could have easily picked up 2 in this game. You could have easily gotten 2 points and not walked away with 1. But 0 for 5 in the power play, probably the biggest sting as far as this shootout loss goes. So, obviously, they're looking a little bit more positively towards Tuesday night's game at Little Caesars Arena before they go off on their 6-game road trip. They're going to have a couple of days off to think about it. And a lot of times when McClellan has a couple of days off with the troops, they really come out of that either, with their heinies sore, so to speak, or with a lot more motivation and a lot more lessons learned to take along with them into the next game. So we'll see how that one turns out on Tuesday. Now, it being Monday, it's Milestone Monday. Now we're talking about a player who is either just recently reached a milestone or is on the cusp of it. Talking about 5th-year defenseman Seider, the leader of the defense for the Detroit Red Wings. Mo is 4 points shy of 200 in his career. He has played solidly as a defenseman. 200 points for a defenseman over 4.25 years. Actually, very admirable. One of the things that we talk about past defensemen, and a point I've made once or twice before, is that I feel Nicholas Lidstrom is probably the greatest defenseman in the history of the league. Now, a lot of people might sit there and argue about Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr was a scorer. Now, Bobby Orr was just a player. I'm not even going to try to define Bobby Orr, but he was a scorer. He won the Hart Trophy however many times. Conn Smythe how many times? 2. I shouldn't make it sound like it's like a million, but yeah, he won the Conn Smythe a couple times, 2 cups. But when you look at the actual role of a defenseman, I look at Nicholas Lidstrom defending that blue line for that Red Wings team, being part of that dynasty. and really backing some of the more offensive players like Yzerman, Fedorov, Datsuk, you name it. Brendan Shanahan. I mean, we can't go through lists of scores for the Red Wings without bringing up that name. All Hall of Famers. So Mo being in that kind of company, obviously Lidstrom casts one of the longest shadows that you can possibly think of as far as a defenseman goes. So being in the same city as somebody like Lidstrom obviously is a huge mantle to take on when you're a young player like Seider is. But I feel like he's been very solid and he's been very productive. He's one of the more productive defensemen when it comes to the power play in the league. He is just really showing a lot more than what 5 years in the league would suggest. Actually, 4 years and change. So obviously, we're hoping by the time Milestone Monday comes around next time, he'll have already passed that 200-point mark, and the Red Wings will have a little bit more offense in their arsenal. Now, speaking of the Red Wings arsenal, talking a little bit about the league and power rankings, the Red Wings have dropped 4 spots. They're now down to 14 in league rankings. Which honestly, I can't really see that as too bad because they've lost 4 games in a row. So there's some teams like the Winnipeg Jets who have dropped 12 spots. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Hellebuck is out and will be out for several weeks. And when you got the reigning Hart Memorial Trophy winning player for the league and he's going to be out however many months he's going to be out, those are the kinds of things that will really come into play when you're going up and down in rankings. Now, a little bit more on the positives as far as teams who are really jumping the rankings is Tampa Bay's jumped 8 spots to number 5. I already mentioned how bad of a start the Lightning had to their season, and the fact that they've just been able to turn it back around and be all the way to the top of that Atlantic Division right now obviously speaks volumes, and of course that deserves that number 8 spot jumped up to be number 5. Minnesota is actually the one who's jumped the most. They've jumped 11 spots and are now number 8, but they're not in the Red Wings division, so we'll just let them have all that success over there in that other conference. But speaking of the Eastern Conference, at least the Capitals, though not in the Red Wings division, they've jumped 8 spots and they're now at number 12 in the league. They too had a pretty bad start for the season, but I think a lot of this jumping for the Capitals has a lot to do with my least favorite player in the league, Tom Wilson. Wilson has actually scored more goals than Ovechkin at this point. So when you got somebody like Wilson scoring just as many goals as Ovechkin, who's always going to be there, who's always going to be accounting for points as it is. So when you got a two-headed monster like that, of course your rankings and the way that people look at you are going to jump up. So as much as I hate to give an attaboy to somebody like Tom Wilson, you gotta give him some credit. So for putting as many into the net as he is, playing alongside the all-time leading goal scorer in Alexander Ovechkin. So now we're getting to the no-cap recap portion of the show. I'm going to go back to the press conference following the Tampa Bay Lightning game, in which Larkin was talking a little bit about things just not clicking, really. And they're talking about net play, I guess. So here's what Larkin said. Todd talked a lot about net play in the last few days. They get a couple there in front of our net, and most of their goals were chaos around the crease and late plays and whacking and battles in our net front. It's frustrating when we talk about it a lot, and it just keeps happening. You've got to box out early, and you've got to win net front battles, and I don't think we did it, and it showed up because it was in our net. I thought we had looks. We countered it by blocking shots and going the other way and not letting them establish net front and make it easy for our goalies to see the puck and get a whistle and start over from face-off. We did it at times, especially the first period. We generated enough chances to win that hockey game, and we scored enough to win that hockey game. Of course, they didn't win the hockey game. Let's throw that into the net, to the AI slang translator, and see what comes out the other end. Todd was yapping all week about net play, you know. They get a deuce of dudes posted up in front of our tendy, and almost all their goals were just straight up mayhem in the crease. Late hits and a bunch of whacking and scrapping right in front of our net. It's mega frustrating when we jaw about it constantly and it just keeps going down like that. We got to box out early and straight up dominate those net front battles, which we didn't do, and it showed big time because it ended up in our mesh. We had some good looks though, no cap. We fired back by blocking shots and hauling A the other way, not letting them set up shop in front of the net, making it easy for our goalies to actually see the biscuit, get a whistle, and reset from the faceoff. We cooked at times, especially in the first. We stirred up enough chances to ice that game, and we even scored enough to win it. Now, here's to the Red Wings throwing some in the back of the other team's mesh, hopefully in the next couple of games, especially as they embark on that 6-game road trip. So tomorrow night's game, hosting the Boston Bruins. If Saturday night was any taste of what's to come, hopefully the Red Wings are kind of like turning on a dime here, starting to create opportunities and not letting themselves get out of the game enough to they can stay in it, and maybe even, you know, even if they do force overtime, to win it, to get those 2 points. This has been Red Wings Daily, folks, presented to you by FanArch. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight, and LGRW from the PNW. Go Wings.